let's bring on our next set of panelists. So this panel, which is our first panel for the day, is about the history and the evolution of smart wallets. We're going to talk about how things started, where they're going, and how can we think about better user interactions with our wallets. And the three panelists to talk about this are going to be Pedro from WalletConnect, Itai from Dynamic, and moderating this conversation will be Itamar from Argent. So without further ado, please welcome all three of them on stage.
Hi, everyone. Pedro, Itai, great to have you here.
Thank you, thank you.
Thanks. Let's maybe start by some intro so that everyone knows who we are and what we are doing.
I'll go first. Oh, wow, so much pressure. I think, hey everyone, I'm Itai, co-founder of Dynamic. What we essentially do in a nutshell, so we've been at this for about 2 years. What we do in a nutshell is everything that happens after you click login on a website. So whether you have a wallet, you don't have a wallet and you need an embedded wallet, user management, linking multiple wallets to the same account, that's pretty much what we do. You can see it on sites like the Pudgy Penguins Marketplace or Doodles or the Starknet airdrop or you know their bridge or anything of that sort. IYK, token proof, if you went to Eat Denver and you kind of clicked to log in, that all kind of uses a version of Dynamic. So that's inherently what we do. We're based stateside in California and Miami, and that is pretty much it. That was that fast enough, detailed? I don't know. We'll see. Yeah.
We'll ask more questions after.
Exactly.
My name is Pedro. I'm the founder of WalletConnect, and that means many things, but mostly it means the WalletConnect protocol that enables remote connections between all the mobile wallets that you know today to dapps. And we also have our own SDK, which is called Web3 Modal, which allows you to essentially have this embedded experience where you can connect multiple wallets, not just mobile wallets, but also browser wallets. And we also recently released Web3 Inbox, which allows wallets to receive dApp notifications.
Thanks. And I'm Itamar, founder at Argent. We started our journey as the first smart wallet on Ethereum back in 2018. Where we had the great idea of paying gas for users on L1. Then we started our journey to scaling and cheaper solution, and now we are very focused on Starknet, where we have more than 2 million smart accounts, $1 billion in assets, and around 80% of users use Argent when interacting with Starknet. So there are a lot of topics on the wallet topic, and what we thought we would start with is a new trend we see a lot, which are embedded wallets. I think a lot of people are talking about it, are probably using it. If you have used something like Friendtech or others, you are often faced with an embedded wallet. Let's start maybe by around what people think, what are the main issues, and is that a trend that's here to stay? Am I correct, Itai, that you guys actually have an embedded wallet in your offering? So maybe you can share. Okay, so let's start with you.
Yeah, thank you. So I think you made a good observation. Embedded wallets mean a lot of different things to different people, right? It can be, they're a tool and a set of tool kind of in your toolbox for how to do one of many things, whether it's to onboard users to Web3. So if you're a dApp and you want to kind of open up the ability to access kind of your protocol by non-Web3 users, that is a use case of embedded wallets. There are completely other use cases. So if you want to build a decentralized Venmo that works across Argentina and Brazil, you might need some sort of embedded wallet component in your app that actually kind of lets you do stablecoin to stablecoin transactions, right? So there are a lot of different kind of aspects, and we'll get to it. I think there are discussions around whether embedded wallets are siloed into an app or global, but inherently what we've seen is we see them being used across a very long list of use cases. So again, anywhere from kind of a decentralized Venmo type thing to global contractor payments, where it's very siloed within the app, and it's just a way to hook up to crypto rails or crypto network, to a more dApp use case, which is a dApp that had kind of wallet connection, and now they want to kind of increase the scope of the types of users that can access it, and anywhere in between. So that's what we see on a day-to-day basis. We can probably double-click on those over this conversation.
Pedro, I'm sure you have an opinion around embedded wallet and how you can interact with really any dApp. As WalletConnect, I think universal access to every single dApp is something you care about. How do you see embedded wallet play a role there?
Yeah, so WalletConnect protocol was built on the idea that everyone will have a dedicated application to manage their wallets. So embedded wallets are challenging that, but it's not coming without its costs. Web3 model also has an embedded wallet feature, just like Dynamic has, but there's some disadvantages, which kind of has this more like siloed experience. Some embedded wallets today, if you connect to an application, let's say Uniswap, and then you use that particular embedded wallet, then you get a different account if you go to OpenSea. And now we're creating this concept of a global wallet, but it's not truly global, because realistically, I know that Dynamic has a different vendor option than Web3 model. So if you use an email with our SDK, will get you a different account to Dynamic. And I think this is a big problem, because when we created the WalletConnect protocol, we created with the idea of full interoperability, and we have achieved that with browser and mobile wallets, which I think is a great success. But now embedded wallets are kind of fixing the user experience, but also pushing back the interoperability, which we have addressed before.
I think we can go on some of the disadvantage. Maybe my view on the Argent side on embedded wallet. On one end, we have an embedded wallet on Starknet, the web wallet, so clearly we wouldn't do it if we didn't believe it can really improve onboarding. But I think something we see with the builders is maybe they believe too much that this is the issue. So I think we as an ecosystem put too much of an excuse around, oh, crypto, there's friction, there's an issue there on onboarding. The reality is that in our research, the wallet side, even with a seed phrase, is actually a small part when, if you start needing to put money in the system, that takes significantly more time if you're on ramping with a card or others, KYC, etc. And even worse, if you need to bridge from L1, then the cost is prohibitive. So there are so many other friction points. The wallet is probably not the main reason you might not have enough users, let's say it that way. So maybe on the siloed, Itai, if you have something else, maybe siloed versus global. Should everything just be global wallet? And maybe to clarify to users, siloed is really your wallet only work with that dApp. If you go on the second dApp, even with the same vendor, they might give you another wallet. And so you lose composability in some way. Is there a place where siloed is better?
Yeah, I think first, I think, Pedro, you made this point, which is first when we define global, we have to define it's global within an ecosystem, right? So a good example is correct me if I'm wrong, the web wallet, right, on Starknet is global.
Within Starknet.
Within Starknet, yeah. And within a place where it uses specifically your SDK, right? So it is, when we say global, we really mean, and I'm assuming it's the same, right? Wherever Web3 model is used, it's global, right? And same with if Dynamic does a global type offering, it's wherever Dynamic model is used. And so when we say global, first we really have to make sure everyone knows, which is it's global within your ecosystem. Right, and so one challenge, and I think you mentioned this, is there needs to be some sort of interoperability across ecosystems, right? So there needs to be some way in which a Web3 model wallet works with a dynamic wallet and vice versa, which I think is a challenge. But we talk a lot about global wallets. I kind of think that a bunch of people don't really care. Right? I think it's a problem we care a lot about, but again, there are many use cases of embedded wallets that make no sense for global wallets. Right? If you're using a dApp, I think the use case of Uniswap, you go to Uniswap and you log in, and then you go to Magic Eden and you log in, it's the same wallet, is a phenomenal use case for global wallets, right? Because it is a dApp-like interface. But then if you just want to build as a startup a new experience for global payments, or as an example, you're building a meme coin trading app on your phone, right? You should not care, and your users do not care that these wallets are global. You're tokenizing an asset and you're putting on chain and you're letting someone in Argentina buy US treasuries. They do not care about the wallet. That is just an ends to a mean for them to access an asset that they couldn't access before, or transfer money, or do anything of that sort. And so there's an entire use case of global wallets, which essentially just is an easier fintech stack together with account abstraction and on-ramps, etc. It's an easier, and sorry for the extremely long monologue here, so I'll stop in a second. But there's a full kind of stack of use cases for embedded wallets where global makes no sense because it's not, users don't even know or should know that they have a wallet, just like you shouldn't know that you're using ACH behind the scenes when transferring money from point A to point B.
Well, I have to challenge that because I don't believe that's true. I believe that users do not care about technology, and I think that's what you're actually trying to emphasize here. But they do care about the universal aspects of the internet. And even if you go to more traditional paths, like in Europe, we have standards like PSD2, which essentially creates a more open banking system where essentially it doesn't matter which banking provider you essentially have this more universal identity over all your bank accounts. And if you go into, not so open, but Meta is trying to create a single identity over all their Meta products, and this has come with great advantages for the users to have one login for everything and one profile for everything. And if they choose to have different profiles, they can still manage under the Meta account center. So I think that this is a very important problem to solve because users need convenience. It's a convenient thing to have a single identity over all of these accounts. It doesn't matter how it's going to work under the hood. That's our job to fix. But they definitely need this more open system other than having to remember like 1,000 million passwords and 1,000 million emails, and now we have passkeys, and it's getting more and more complex and siloed. So universal identity in the internet is the end goal.
Countering your counter, just to keep it interesting to your point, the counter to that is, do we really want Meta to have all our information and have, there's the counter to a universal access is privacy, right? Or lack thereof, right? And to your point, or a counter. I think there are ways to address it. And to your point, if we do this in a proper way, I struggle with that a little bit because I think we don't have an identity. I have my gaming identity, and I have my work identity, and I have my personal identity, and I kind of want to silo those sometimes, right? And even in your example on a Meta, I have my login with Facebook, but then I also have my login with Google, right? And even at that scale, there are multiple ecosystems out there that don't necessarily share information. It's important for consumers, but it is, and let me know, you know more on the kind of European banking, but I don't think anyone stops opening a bank account or opens a bank account as a result of that interoperability. It might be better over a long term, but it's not, it is kind of an evolution versus kind of a short-term goal type thing.
One way to see a siloed wallet, but I think there are pros for it, but to me it will be the idea that you'll be topping up a balance on every website. So suddenly you want to top up a balance on Amazon, on Apple, on Netflix, and that to me is a bit strange, versus no, I bring my own wallet and I will pay these different parties, which would be more the global wallet. But I've been talking to very smart Starknet developers who are asking for this siloed wallet, and I'm trying to understand why, because there's so many advantages of the global one. Users are, well, it's bring your own wallet, bring all your assets, so in one click you can start interacting. And I think there's an element around, if you really want a totally invisible wallet, you put a lot of trust in the dApp. The reality is it's significantly less secure. Literally, the dApp could make you sign whatever they want. You have much less security than from using an extension of a mobile app. And you could accept that if you are really a siloed wallet, meaning I'm giving $1,000 to that dApp, I fully trust it, and now I just use the dApp, I don't see the wallet anymore. You would want a siloed wallet or some mechanism, could be session keys that really make the wallet totally invisible, and that's where maybe siloed is a bit of a shortcut that could work.
I mean, one thing that I wanted to bring up that Itai said, we want to create this segregation between your gaming identity, your financial identity, and your social identity. But embedded wallets right now are siloed not based on user configuration of what they believe is the correct segregation. They're actually segregated by business relationships. And this is the challenge that we need to address here, because just because your favorite app uses Web3 modal or dynamic, that shouldn't dictate how you actually segregate your accounts. We should have fully universal accounts across businesses, and then you make a decision of actually compartmentalizing your gaming identity from your social identity. Now, how do we actually fix this? I think that this is something that Argent has been working on for a long time, which is bringing smart accounts and smart wallets into the picture. Because the reason these siloed wallets even exist in the first place is that EVM specifically has this assumption that for one key there's one account. But if we actually break that assumption and we actually introduce smart accounts, then we can actually have a dynamic key and a Web3 modal key and an Argent key control a singular account. And I think smart accounts might be the solution for the problem.
Yeah. By the way, I 100% agree with that. I think there are use cases, I kind of go back to use cases. There are some use cases which, let me know whether you agree, that where the embedded wallet is just a part of a financial tech stack for taking an action. It's not a Web3 type thing versus crypto rails as a more efficient path to kind of completing an action. That could be trading, that could be tokenized assets or anything like that. And then there's within an ecosystem, so let's take the Uniswap and Magic Eden example, can we do kind of a single wallet? And there, I think that the answer is absolutely we should, right? Because you should, just like you go and you see Argent on website A and you see Argent on website B, right? And it should be the same Argent wallet. That should be the case for an embedded wallet. I think you're also 100% agree that a phenomenal path for this is account abstraction, where you assign multiple signers, right, to the same kind of account. But then I think you made a good point. There's like a lot of security risks here with how do you make sure, how does a Magic Eden or a Uniswap ensure that the random dApp developer doesn't kind of take advantage of their newfound power of having access to kind of a wallet, and maybe session keys play a role there. I'm not sure.
Is there a risk that by pushing too much embedded wallet, we destroy self-custody? They are not custodial, but let's be realistic. In most cases, if someone stops paying the bill, your AWS infra, you probably lose access to your wallet. Is there a risk there? How do you approach that?
I mean, if we just stop development right now and we consider this the end state, yes. Like, we're not in a good state for recoverability, for fair markets, for internet freedom. Like, it's really, we're kind of challenging, going in a good user experience, but compromising, and we're kind of in the dance between compromising on tech and user experience. And this dance is necessary because otherwise we can't find the balance, because you either are too balanced and you don't make any moves, or you just sometimes prioritize user experience, sometimes you prioritize tech and interoperability, and we definitely need to solve this. And honestly, there's advantages to having competition, like having Dynamic build their own SDK, having Web3 modal build their own SDK. There's advantages because we end up optimizing for a different set of customers. The problem now is that these keys are siloed, and I need the Web3 modal key to control the same account as the Dynamic key and the Argent key. And the only way that I believe that this will be feasible is through smart accounts, because like you said, these are pretty much custodial systems, and very unlikely that they will be self-custodial if they're embedded.
Maybe just on the custodial point, just to challenge a little bit, again, to keep this panel interesting, hopefully, I would argue there's a difference between custody and trust assumptions. Right? There's more the legal, and I'm not a lawyer, but they're more like the legal and compliance definitions of custody versus trust assumptions, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, but if I don't know about Argent, I'm assuming if MetaMask goes down, I'm assuming as an entity, there's going to be some issues accessing the MetaMask extension, right? I don't know if you can technically take your key, but how many of us have, saved everything in an easy-to-access place? There are trust assumptions that you make. With MetaMask, you make slightly less trust assumptions. With a dynamic, you make slightly more trust assumptions. But at the end of the day, we all, all of us probably have an Apple laptop, or I guess some of us have a PC. I don't know if that's a thing anymore, but you trust Apple as well, right? There are trust assumptions here. Right? We make them every day, and so there's this balance between the custody aspect. These are, I think, non-custodial wallets versus what do you have to assume about the internet when you kind of make these decisions. Just as an extreme example, all of us can stay in business, but if AWS goes away, everyone's also, pardon my language, okay, I'm not going to say it here, but it starts with an F. And we're all making those trust assumptions on a day-to-day basis. So that's, I would just separate kind of the custody aspect from the trust aspect. Interestingly,
on the smart account point, you bring Pedro smart account for interoperability. To be honest, we never thought about it that way. We have always used smart account. For us, it came more from the angle of upgradeability. So we see the web wallet or the embedded wallet as a first step. Probably I wouldn't advise someone with $1,000 or more to stay there. And then with smart account, we have a path to move them to a mobile signer or an extension, etc., while keeping the same address, the same account. So we saw it more as a way to evolve from this very smooth onboarding to then a full-on, full ownership of my wallet experience. But I like the interoperability angle too.
Realistically, interoperability just means shared infrastructure, and it's very hard for people to agree on shared infrastructure. It's actually pretty much a miracle that WalletConnect protocol worked, and I think it just came because we had such a great ethos as a community for the last 5 to 6 years that kind of just trusted to actually build together the WalletConnect protocol, and it got us to the day where we have like the best interoperability compared to other ecosystems. WalletConnect today is now supported by other ecosystems, but it's not at the same level as Ethereum. Like, it just completely dominates the experience in Ethereum, and we kind of have to have that same moment with smart accounts now. We have to have a second WalletConnect moment. It's probably not going to be called WalletConnect, or maybe, I hope so, that basically have full interoperability between all wallets and smart accounts, such that we don't care what kind of vendor you use, we don't care what kind of business relationships or SaaS you use. That's just like business lingo, and at the end of the day, the user just cares that their username works everywhere, and it has always the same assets, and that's their identity.
Just by the way, I think that to your point, just maybe a shout out here, which is it also, you guys did this recently with 6963, right? Where for folks that don't know, right, and you'll be able to like probably give a significantly better description than me, but at the very basic level, browser extension wallets pretty much pretended to be MetaMask over the last couple of years. That was their entire kind of thesis, is in order to get distribution, I'll just pretend to be MetaMask. And I think the WalletConnect team has led this incredible initiative to kind of standardize that, and within a very quick time frame, pretty much all wallets are now adopting this ability to kind of work together right next to each other. And so I very much hope that we can do the same thing for the account abstraction layer.
So that's a good segue maybe to account abstraction on EVM. A lot of people ask us, how did we get adoption on Starknet? So on Starknet, we have 100% adoption of account abstraction. Every account is a smart wallet. Every single dApp supports smart wallet. Every single dApp does multi-call. You will never see an ERC20 account. I mean, even centralized exchange like Kraken or Binance are using the Argent account. And people ask us, how did that happen? But the reality is we can't transfer those learning. The reason it happened is we went so early, we started on a blank page, and we worked with Starkware to say that's how it should work. And EOA should not exist. That's the standard interface of an account. And whether you're Argent or a competitor, you will use the exact same interface, and dApps have only one way to think about it. And that's easy to do when you start from scratch. How do we do that while dealing with the legacy and backward compatibility rather than legacy on EVM? Do you see a path or clear next step to push that adoption forward?
I mean, I don't know how many people are in this room are aware how Ethereum evolves. Like, the Ethereum protocol is basically decided by the core devs, and core devs are not some cabal. Like, they're just devs, you know, that kind of write code, and they are part of different teams, and then they come into agreement of what is the next step. But obviously, these teams are very focused on like the largest problems like scalability, and now they just did the blobs upgrade. And we kind of have to voice to them that like the user experience is a burning fire that we need to put away. And it's something that has been kind of like forgotten because we had proof of stake, we had like EIP 1559 with the fee mechanism and blobs. And I think that now we're starting to see some awareness that we can't survive as an EVM ecosystem without properly adopting like user experience focused upgrades. Like that's something that we have never actually done as Ethereum. And the reason Starknet has 100% account abstraction is because they prioritize that. It's just a matter of focus. So if it's in my power, I will try to convince as many core devs as possible that the next upgrade is focused on user experience, such that the account abstraction doesn't become this hack around like, we're going to build more smart contracts. No, we should just make the EVM more smart account friendly. Just
to add to that, my 2 cents is it starts with the L2s, right? It actually, I would venture to say that I wouldn't be, I'm willing to bet some money that Base, for instance, over time would just mandate account abstraction as a default, right? With like, I think there's RIP 7560 as a first step there. My 2 cents is we're going to start seeing the sub-ecosystems, to your point, that prioritize consumer crypto, that prioritize user experience, just go all out account abstraction and completely remove these concepts of kind of gas fees or anything of that sort. And then over time, I think after we get a bunch of these sub-ecosystems, that would be how kind of we go back to your point, like the core devs and convince them it has to be at the EVM level. But I think that many kind of coalitions is the way to go here.
I fully agree on that. I mean, Ethereum cannot evolve as fast, shouldn't. L2 is the opportunity. They've solved their cost problem. Most of the time, the throughput, so focusing on UX is the right opportunity. Should we try to get a few questions if we have a minute, I see? Yeah.
I do believe we actually have a minute, so like we have one question.
Thank you, guys. What do you think about these EIP 7212?
I guess I can start. I think it's a passkey. So for anyone who doesn't know, EIP 7212 essentially kind of works on kind of passkey validation directly to the smart contract, essentially skipping the need, using your phone inherently as the EOA private key signer. I think it is a phenomenal idea in theory. I am a huge supporter of it. I think it faces a significant amount of hurdles, right? And one of them is, first and foremost, is not everyone likes passkeys, right? That is step number one. Second is they don't necessarily, and I say that in pain because I love passkeys, but you know, the second aspect to this is that most chains, correct me if I'm wrong, I think Polygon Mumbai is the only thing where it's actually deployed. And so besides that, it's pretty expensive gas-wise to do everywhere else. And so it's going to take a long time to implement. I really want to believe it's going to happen. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if you agree.
It's gonna happen. We just have to accept the fact that like nobody cares about this, like, and wants to have an actual hardware wallet. Your phone literally has this technology. Like it's not just passkeys. Like 7212 introduces a new cryptographic curve for signatures, which goes beyond passkeys. So even if you don't like passkeys, Apple Secure Enclave or Android key stores, all of our smartphones have secure elements that can be natively supported by the EVM. So if it's not the Ethereum core devs, it's going to be some roll-up. Like, it's going to happen.
Just on that, I think we see passkeys now being adopted on Web 2, so I think that's clearly there's an acceleration. Once and for all, I want to clarify that passkeys on macOS and on iPhone are not in your secure enclave. So people should stop thinking about it. It's about convenience. It is not stored in your secure enclave. You can use the same elliptic curve to sign with a hardware signer, the secure enclave, but you will need a mobile app installed for that. So Passkey is really about UX. If it doesn't kill the throughput, I would really push for that. As you say, if it's not too heavy in computation, but it's really a nice UX. And Starknet also working on making this much cheaper, as it's quite expensive right now.
I would just say one thing. I know we're at time, but to your point, it's UX. I would also argue it increases security, mostly because it's essentially you generate an invisible password per app without the user having to remember anything.
Totally
right?
agree. But from our experience, basically, the key extraction is not how people lose their money. People lose their money because they go on uniswap.com with 2 Ps and they sign the wrong transaction. That's really, it's about fraud monitoring, risk scoring. That's how you lose your money. In 99% of the case, you are the one with your own wallet, with your own key, signing the wrong transaction. And everyone will not admit, but everyone has signed such transaction in their life. Yeah.
No comment.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Everyone.